Ladies and gentlemen, right now, I want you to take a deep breath and feel it. That heartbeat, that's life telling you you're still in the game. Let me be clear. Setbacks are not the end. They're a reset button. They are life's way of saying you're ready for more. Let's level up. I don't care if you've been knocked down, betrayed, bankrupted, heartbroken, or even if you feel like your best days are behind you. This is your moment to rise again. Stronger, smarter, unstoppable. Because listen closely, you are not your past, you are your potential. What if instead of seeing a setback as a dead end, you started seeing it as a detour that leads to something better? The truth is, setbacks are never just about loss. They are rich with data, insight, and potential. They are not failures, they're feedback. They're the world's way of saying this wasn't the way, but there is a way. And when you shift that perception, your entire experience of adversity transforms. You see, most people attach their identity to outcomes. If they win, they feel like a winner. If they fail, they label themselves a failure. That's the trap. The outcome is never who you are. It's simply where you are in your growth. If you burned your first dinner trying to cook a new recipe, would you say, I'm a terrible cook, and never try again? Or would you say, okay, that didn't work. Now I know I shouldn't crank the heat to high and leave the room. It's just feedback. One moment, one result, not your identity. When we frame failure as something final, we paralyze our progress. But when we treat it as a teacher, we create momentum. You begin to recognize that a closed door isn't the end. It's a redirection to something better suited for your growth, your purpose, or your next breakthrough. Feedback isn't failure, it's fuel. It gives you clarity. It reveals what needs to change. It shows you the blind spots you couldn't see while you were moving full speed ahead. Think about the process of learning to walk. No one teaches a toddler. You fell 5 times today. Maybe walking isn't for you. Instead, we cheer them on. We know the falling is part of the learning. We expect it. Celebrate it even. Somewhere along the line, we forget that. As adults, we develop fear. Fear of embarrassment, fear of judgment, fear of trying and not getting it right. But what if we reclaimed that childlike resilience? What if we saw every stumble as just part of the dance? Let me give you a powerful real-world example. There's a man who once built a company with all his heart. It was his dream. He poured in time, money, sacrifice, and then the market crashed. He lost it all. The business, the income, his sense of certainty. People around him said it was over, but he refused to accept that narrative. He said, this is painful, but it's not pointless. He dug in. He studied what went wrong. He didn't blame the economy. He looked at his systems, his assumptions, the gaps he had ignored. He learned. He grew. And 2 years later, he launched again. Wiser, leaner, sharper. That second company didn't just succeed, it exploded. And when asked what made the difference, he said, losing that first business gave me the playbook for building this one right. That's the essence of this idea. Every failure contains the seed of a greater success, if you're willing to look for it. And that only happens when you reframe it. Because when you see setbacks as feedback, you stop being stuck. You start growing forward. You start asking better questions. What's the lesson? Where's the opportunity? What's this making possible that wouldn't have happened otherwise? Life is not happening to you. It's happening for you. And every time something breaks, you get to rebuild. Not from scratch, but from experience. That's power. That's momentum. That's transformation. So the next time life knocks you off course, remember this: it's not the end. It's information. Use it, learn from it, build with it, and come back stronger, smarter, and more unshakable than ever before. You can't create a new future with the same emotional energy that created the setback. If you're in a state of fear, fatigue, or frustration, it's nearly impossible to act with power, clarity, or creativity. That's why the way you feel, your emotional state, is not a side effect of your life. It's the fuel of your life. You must take control of it. This isn't just motivational fluff, it's the foundation of transformation. Every action you take, every decision you make, is driven by the emotional state you're in at that moment. So if you're trying to change your life while stuck in a low energy, defeated state, it's like trying to drive a Ferrari with no gas, all potential, no movement. To change your life, you must first change your state, your physical, emotional, and mental energy in the moment. This means getting out of your head and into your body. When we're stuck in a setback, most people live inside their thoughts, looping the story, the pain, the regret, the fear. that loop becomes a trap. But when you interrupt that loop with movement, breath, and sound, you interrupt the pattern of weakness and replace it with momentum. The truth is, your emotions are a product of your motion. If you sit slouched over, breathing shallow, speaking in a quiet and defeated tone, your brain gets the message, we're losing. But when you stand tall, breathe deep, move with purpose, and speak like you mean it, suddenly a different version of you shows up. Try this right now. Stand up, shoulders back, take a deep breath in through your nose and out through your mouth, and smile even if you don't feel like it. Now clap your hands loudly 3 times and shout, let's go. Notice the shift. That's not just a gimmick. That's you commanding your nervous system to serve you, not sabotage you. It's you deciding that you will dictate the state you live in, rather than letting circumstances do it for you. The most powerful people in the world are not the ones who never fall. They're the ones who can shift state instantly when they do. They've trained themselves to switch from stuck to strong, from lost to laser focused, and that shift starts with mastering the body. Motion creates emotion. It doesn't take a motivational speech to get you moving. It takes a single decision, followed by physical action, to tell your brain, I'm back in control. Let's make this real with a short story. Imagine a professional boxer in a championship match. He's taken a hard hit, and he's down. The crowd gasps. His coach yells, you've got this. But in that moment, it's not words that bring him back, it's movement. He pounds his gloves together, slaps his chest, and breathes with power. That state change brings him back into the fight. He's still hurting, but now he's focused. He rises, and in the next round, he lands the knockout punch. Not because he was the strongest, but because he controlled his state when it mattered most. The same principle applies to you. You're not waiting to feel better before you take action. You're taking action to feel better. That's the secret. Don't wait for motivation. Move your body, speak your truth, shift your breath, and you'll find the energy to rewrite your story. The version of you that can win this next round. That version is already inside you. You just have to wake it up. And you do that through movement, certainty, and presence. You do it by mastering your state. When we face setbacks, it's easy to forget who we are. We start to identify with the loss, the mistake, or the failure. That's dangerous, because the most powerful force in the human psyche is the need to remain consistent with who we believe we are. So if we begin to believe that we are failures, that we're unlucky, or that we're not good enough, our actions will start to reflect that identity, and then we spiral. But the truth is, you are not your mistakes, and you are not the setback you experienced. You are something far greater, and it's time to remember that. When you shift your identity, everything else begins to follow. Think about it. If someone sees themselves as a disciplined athlete, they don't have to get motivated to train. Training is who they are. If someone identifies as a successful entrepreneur, they will keep building and innovating, even after a failed business, because they believe success is part of their DNA. The moment you align your identity with the outcome you want, your decisions and habits begin to change naturally. It's not willpower, it's who you are. But in the chaos of failure, we forget. We let doubt creep in. We start to identify with the pain rather than the possibility. This is where people get stuck. They stop chasing goals because they no longer believe they're capable. They shrink their dreams to fit their wounds, and that's not the path to fulfillment. The way forward is to choose your identity consciously, not based on your past, but based on your vision. If you want to break through after a setback, you must stop asking, what happened to me? And start asking, who do I choose to become now? Because that's a more powerful question. It pulls you forward instead of anchoring you to the past. Identity is not fixed, it's forged. And you forge it in moments of decision, especially when it's hard. Let me give you a quick example. There was a young man who dreamed of becoming a professional speaker. He got his first big opportunity at a small event. He was excited, rehearsed for weeks, and showed up ready. But halfway through his speech, he froze. Blank mind, silence. People in the audience started whispering. He fumbled through the rest, feeling embarrassed and humiliated. That night, everything in him wanted to quit. His mind screamed, maybe you're not cut out for this. Maybe you're not good enough. But he did something different. Instead of agreeing with that voice, he asked, what would someone who's already a world-class speaker do after this? The answer, they would review the tape, study the failure, learn, and get back on stage as soon as possible. So that's what he did. He redefined himself not as someone who failed, but as someone who was a speaker. And speakers keep speaking. A year later, he delivered a keynote to a room of 2,000 people and got a standing ovation. Why? Because he stopped defining himself by what happened and started living from who he decided to be. That's the power of identity. When you lock into who you truly are, not who your fear says you are, you unlock levels of courage and resilience that most people never access. The world will try to label you based on your past. Your job is to rise above the label and live from your truth. So in the face of your setback, don't shrink, don't collapse, don't question your worth. Look in the mirror and declare, "This is who I am," and then show up like it, over and over again, until the world believes it too. Because once you remember who you are, no setback stands a chance. A compelling future is the fuel that ignites action and sustains resilience. Without it, even the most talented individuals can fall into cycles of procrastination, fear, or despair. But when you create a clear, emotionally charged vision of what your future looks like, one that pulls you forward, everything changes. You stop being pushed by pain and start being pulled by purpose. That's the shift. That's the spark. The mind is a powerful thing. It doesn't act based on what's real. It acts on what it believes, and belief is built by repetition, clarity, and emotion. When you visualize your future with intensity, when you can see it, feel it, taste it, walk in it, your brain begins to treat it as already familiar, already possible. It starts looking for ways to make it real. This is not about fantasy or wishful thinking. This is about training your nervous system to align with a future you want, not the past you regret. People don't burn out because they're doing too much. They burn out because they've lost sight of why they're doing it. A compelling future acts like a lighthouse in the storm. It doesn't eliminate the waves, but it gives you direction. It helps you stay focused when everything around you is chaos. And most importantly, it gives your suffering meaning. If your pain has a purpose, you can endure almost anything. If your struggle serves a greater vision, it becomes fuel, not failure. Let's break this down into something practical. You must define a vision that excites you, not just one that sounds good to others, but one that moves you. A vision that keeps you awake at night, because you can't wait to live it. It has to be your vision, authentic, honest, bold, not a recycled dream handed to you by society or your past. And once you've created that vision, revisit it every day, speak it aloud, write it down, meditate on it, feel it in your bones, let it saturate your decisions. Here's a short example to illustrate how powerful this really is. A young woman named Sarah had always dreamed of opening a wellness studio, a place that combined movement, meditation, and mindset work. But after a messy divorce and a failed business partnership, she hit rock bottom. She was in debt, emotionally exhausted, and ready to give up. For weeks she wallowed in frustration, telling herself that her dream was over. But one morning she sat down with a notebook and decided to rewrite the story. She started detailing what her ideal future looked like, the studio's design, the types of classes, the people she'd help, even the music playing in the background. She visualized every corner of that space until she could feel herself walking through it. That clarity sparked something deep. Instead of staying stuck in regret, she felt pulled into that vision every day. Within 6 months, she was running pop-up classes in her local park. A year later, she secured a small space, and 2 years after that, she opened the studio she had once only imagined, almost exactly as she'd visualized it. Not because she had it easy, but because the future she saw became more real to her than the pain of her past. When you create a compelling future, you give your present a reason to fight. You teach your brain and body to believe in something beyond survival. You don't wait for motivation, you generate it. Because when your future is vivid, your present gains power. That's how you rise. That's how you rebuild. That's how you start again, strong. You don't need to leap tall buildings or reinvent your life in one grand, sweeping motion to make a comeback. The truth is, greatness is not built in dramatic moments. It's forged in the small, consistent actions you take daily, even when no one is watching, especially when no one is watching. After a setback, the temptation is to look at the mountain ahead and feel overwhelmed. We say, "It's too much, I'm too far behind," or "I don't know where to start." That mindset paralyzes us. But the way forward is not through perfection. It's through momentum, and momentum comes from small wins, stacked one on top of the other, until they become a tidal wave of progress. A small win might not feel life-changing in the moment. It's making the call you've been avoiding. It's going for a 15-minute walk when your mind says stay in bed. It's opening the laptop and writing just one paragraph. When your goal is to write a book, these wins might look trivial from the outside, but they carry a deep psychological power. Every time you act in alignment with the person you want to become, you cast a vote for that identity. You shift your belief from I can't to I can, and eventually to I do this. This is how confidence is built, not through magic, but through action. The mistake most people make is waiting to feel ready. They believe motivation has to show up first, before they take action. But the opposite is true. Action creates clarity. Action creates momentum, and momentum is the antidote to fear, doubt, and inertia. Let's look at a quick but powerful example. Imagine a man named Jason. He was once a top performer in his industry, confident, charismatic, unstoppable. But after losing his job during a company-wide layoff and going through a divorce within the same year, he fell into a deep rut. His self-worth collapsed. Every attempt to fix his life felt too big, too far away. The gym felt intimidating, networking events felt exhausting, and job applications, forget it. One day, he decided to do something embarrassingly small. He made his bed. That was it. The next day, he walked for 10 minutes. The day after that, he opened his old resume and rewrote the first sentence. Then he called one friend, applied for one job, took one interview, got rejected, tried again. 3 months later, he had lost 10 pounds, landed a better job than the one he lost, and began dating again, with a stronger sense of self than ever before. What changed? Not his circumstances at first. His pattern changed, his habits shifted, and with each small win, his identity as someone who takes control, who keeps promises to himself, got stronger. Those daily victories built momentum, and that momentum rebuilt his life. You don't need to be perfect. You don't need to have it all figured out. You just need to do one thing today that moves you forward. Celebrate it, stack it, build on it, and tomorrow do it again. Because success doesn't come from doing one thing once. It comes from doing the right things consistently, especially when it's hard. Stack your wins, let them compound, let them remind you who you really are. Because in the end, your comeback isn't built by one big decision, it's built by 1,000 small ones. And the best part, you can start stacking today. Let me leave you with this. This is not the end. It's not even a setback. It's a setup for your greatest comeback. You're not broken. You're building. You're not done. You're just getting started. So get up, shake off the dust, stand tall, and start again, strong. Because your next chapter doesn't need your permission. It needs your decision. Let's go.